interesting how CLG fear the Elise more than the Lee Sin. I mean, Elise, Rush does not like Elise as much as he does Lee Sin, obviously, because he prefers champions that can jump over walls at any time and don't require something to jump to.
I think even more interestingly, it's the fact that CLG is banning it on the blue side. Elise is a champion that is proven to be viable for first picks in a lot of different situations. And then I almost feel like because CLG banned out the Elise here, it makes the Gragas ban, which Xmithie played in the vast majority of his games during the regular season. It's kind of a champion pool test for Xmithie, and maybe he's just going to go with Ekko. First pick, that's an unexpected first pick, that's for sure.
I was thinking Evelyn in my head. Both these players very good at that champion, but actually not at all.
She did just get damage nerf to her Q. 20 damage late game, which is fairly significant.
Of course it is. We'd still seen her somewhat competitive, but yeah, it seems to be dropping her down enough.
Yeah, but the Gragas ban, I really do like that. That's, for me, has been Xmithie's best champion by far, even with the ults sometimes going over his shoulder.
Yeah, and I mean, as Kiwi could actually predict it on the desk, they're going to see what Team Impulse throws at them with the Shen. And for Tip, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Impact has been an amazing Shen player all the way back to the Season 3 World Championship, and he's continuing the trend here.
Yeah, I like, since they're on red side, you know, just going and sticking with the strategy in Game 1 with the Shen and force CLG and ZionSpartan to actually make him change. I did talk to Zion quite a bit, actually, about recent top lane matchups and the changes with new top laners emerging and a lot of the counter picks, and he's confident going into Shen. He actually has a couple of options.
Here's the question: how is his Fizz into the Shen? Like, he has the Olaf and the Fizz, the two champions that ZionSpartan has been most successful with recently, and both of them are available right here. The other thing that we can look at for CLG is the champions they were using during their 6-game win streak at the end of the split. Pretty much all of those team compositions, when they could have them, had Tristana and Fizz, two champions they could easily control in this draft phase.
All right, well, we're going to see how well they can control the turrets in this one. They do have the Tristana. The Evelyn does come through, and yet again, Impulse letting the Kog'Maw come through. We'll see where it ends up going, if it's Apollos or Gates.
That was quick.
Yeah.
So it's the Olaf, Kobe.
Yeah, no, well, it's not really a surprise.
I was surprised how quickly they locked in. A lot of times teams like to let that timer lock down really quick, but I guess.
So the thing is, like, carry champions are really good into Shen just because you have a pretty free lane there, and Olaf is pretty much the top tier for carry champions right now. And then Viktor has been #1, if not #2 mage in the mid lane. So that's why those picks at the end were so quick there.
The only thing that's surprising to me is, even though it has been such a huge pick, it's not something Pobelter has played this split that I see. He's been pretty much only on the Azir train. It's also interesting to me here that once again CLG decided to go Olaf without any inherent speed boost, so he's really going to have to snowball ahead since there's not really a team fight comp there. Whereas Team Impulse, again, has gone with this Kog'Maw. Apollo, towards the end of the split, is becoming less of a utility and being relied upon more as a carry. It's a new dynamic for Team Impulse.
Yeah, he's by far the most important carry in this game because they've put not only top lane Shen, but also mid lane Lulu locked in for Gate. So very supportive cast here for Apollo on the Kog'Maw. It's going to be all about the DPS uptime on that Kog'Maw. He has to be able to keep auto-attacking.
And the one thing I like most about this is so many times when you have an Olaf in the game, it's an arms race between whether or not the Olaf can overpower the AD carry, and Team Impulse is trying to tilt the scales heavily in their favor with that last pick. Lulu, all the shields they can put on Kog can give him time to kill ZionSpartan.
Yeah, if he can't kill Kog over the 5 to 6 seconds of his ultimate, then they can peel him off with the Alistar, with the Shen, with everything else, and with 3 guys keeping him alive for longer, maybe that works. Also, as far as the mid-game's concerned, Evelyn and Lulu can hold some weight for a while.
Absolutely.
So Impulse might be able to hold on until that Kog'Maw reaches infinity.
Even Shen is quite good in the mid-game after first item, so.
Holding on against CLG has been really hard for most teams in North American LCS, though.
Now, CLG, a great early game team, and you guys at home are always involved in these ones. Stay connected with us on Twitter. Let us know how you think this series will go. Vote and tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag CLG win or the hashtag TIP win. Our analysts on site, Zyrene and Kiwi Kids, said it would go to Team Impulse in some number of games. You can prove that wrong. Here we go. Game 1 of the North American semifinals.
To touch on the early game a little bit more for CLG, as you can hear the crowd chanting. not only do they have the most first bloods, first turret percentage, and they're tied for first dragons, but both Zion and Doublelift have the most CS advantage at 10 for their roles. So their lane swap game has been really strong. But it's all about the late game for CLG.
It is about the late game, and in fact, Apollo talked about that, and he says part of Impulse's strategy is to wait for CLG to slip up.
For CLG, we actually kind of rely on them to make more mistakes because they're really known to throw. And it sounds a little bit harsh, but we do actually kind of play around that. We know that they'll probably make the first mistake rather than us making a mistake.
It's always the question.
Yeah, well, I was wondering about the first mistake. That ended up being just a trade of summoner spells, so CLG was doing the aggressive invade, and ZionSpartan forced the flash, but he lost his ghost. So as far as which summoner comes back first, it is a tiny advantage there for CLG.
Well, and the thing is, attacking Olaf early is a pretty good strategy. Shen, the thing with all of these tanky champions that aren't able to bully their lanes and win them on their own, they always have a bunch of CC in their kit, and Shen is good at setting up early moves. Look at this invade here, though. Is going to go across the ward in a couple seconds.
It's the second invade CLG is doing. It's actually rare that a team will do deep wards on one quadrant of the enemy jungle, then sweep all the way over to the other side. This is going to get real interesting. I wonder what CLG's going to end up doing here. Well, that was the mind game.
Their plan to attack Rush early is paying off here because they found him on the other side of the map, and they're taking away jungle from the quadrant that Rush is already committed to. So now he's going to have to find a way around to some farm on the other side.
This could turn so bloody so quickly because Rush does not like having this jungle stone. He's going to go in.
He's going to try for the fight. Tonko's in on his ZionSpartan, who is missing a defensive summoner. He has no way of getting out very easily. Impact, though, missing his cooldowns for now. Gate showing up. Glitter Lance hits ZionSpartan, but Pobelter shows up to buy some time. Out they go, and a camp and a half gone.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, Rush did get the large raptor, so from a total experience perspective, Rush hasn't really been set down since that one quadrant was taken by both teams, and now they spread to the rest of the jungle. This is a big-time mind game, and some big bluffs are going to have to be played now to see whether Rush or Xmithie can get a bigger edge in the jungle.
And actually an interestingly lucky start for Impact there. I don't believe the bot lane was disturbed at all, and yet it's actually freezing towards the Shen. And again, it is a summoner-less Olaf. Evelyn not the scariest at level 2, but something you may need to keep track of. ZionSpartan's going to be over-committed here. For now, though, Rush happy to go for a somewhat counter-jungle blue buff here, and it actually might end up being 2 buffs per team. Yeah,
basically it seems like Rush went to chase Xmithie into his jungle and maybe catch him doing his blue, whereas Xmithie wanted to cut off Rush in the expectation that he'd try and get his red since his other red was stolen right there. Very, very strange here. Looks like now they're all going to figure out what exactly has happened with that late invade by the CLG side. They know pretty much what's up.
Well, yeah, since the bottom lane minion wave was already pushing towards Impulse, it makes it very easy for CLG to make the call to go for this invade, to try and pick up the blue, because Zion can easily shove up the lane. He had a huge double minion wave stacked and go ensure that Xmithie is not harassed while he does go for that counter jungle. So both of them coming away fairly even.
Yeah, the strangest thing that I do want to mention about all these early game jungle shenanigans is in the past, we would have said that this 3 buff is a giant advantage for Xmithie since they stole the red and the blue and got their own red. But then if we just look at the gold, it's actually Rush who is up about 100 gold over top of Xmithie because all the little camps have so much golden XP put in them, and honestly Xmithie spent a lot of his time in transit. Really no full advantage even gained from all those shenanigans.
Yeah, that was really a thing of last season where stealing away buffs was a very big advantage. Early game now, not that big of a deal. Rush has amazing early game stats for junglers, while CLG do, as a team, hold pretty much the best spot in the North American LCS. Rush as an individual, as a jungler, does have the biggest advantage.
Yeah, and as far as where the teams get their advantages as well, it's something we're going to have to track throughout this whole series. Neither of these teams really gain their advantages from the mid lane. It's usually about the side lanes. Specifically Tip, they've been getting advantages from jungle and top. We talk about that all the time, but it's actually ZionSpartan who holds, as you mentioned earlier, the largest CS differential of 10 for any top laner. So it really is almost a battle of similar strengths, even though they go about it in slightly different ways.
Meanwhile, we're seeing one of the big strengths of Team Impulse here. It's been Apollo throughout much of the playoffs here, and so far this bottom lane has been slightly in CLG's favor. Doublelift holds a small minute advantage, although Impulse right now with the health bar lead, they might be able to force an awkward recall away. And Rush is still kind of juggling this side of the map. There's really no way for Xmithie to get to this side, but he is going to do the bot side. And now Impact's got to be pretty careful. Taunts away. He will, I believe, be safe.
Yep, just walks around the stun there. Adrian goes in for the combo and some good harass onto Doublelift.
Yeah, but the health bar keeps getting lower and lower for Counter Logic Gaming. Doublelift on 1,200 gold right now. Does not want to back for another 2 minion waves if he can help it, but it might be forced early. Some good trades keep coming out.
Yeah, he is actually rightfully respectful of sticking around, because if he does, Impact is going to be hitting level 6 shortly. And pretty much the classic thing to do when you're running an Evelyn Shen team composition is to do the 4-man dive almost right as Shen hits level 6, because it's one of the hardest things to prepare against. One of the only ways is to have your jungle camp that lane, or just to make sure you're sitting at full health at almost all times. Smart of Doublelift to back there.
Yeah, Kog'Maw's actually one of the best harassing AD carries. Even pre-6, just the attack range you get. Oh, the stun lands on a Rush. Big trade coming in from Xmithie, trying to cut him off. Shenalty does come through, but Rush losing a lot of health, doesn't want to have to flash out, and he won't just yet. And now Impact comes in. The rest of the crew flashed over the wall by Lulu to get away. And Impulse just not taking the right kind of fight. Impact gonna have to use his flash. If it even matters, he's one hit away. There's the axe! And first blood, Counter Logic Gaming. Yeah,
it definitely seems like Team Impulse was out of sorts in the midst of that fight. Impact taunted in as Gate was flashing out, and then Impact wanted to save his flash. Kind of ridiculous that Xmithie picked a fight with the jungler 2 levels above him, and his team was the ones that come away with the first blood. First blood to ZionSpartan as well, exactly what CLG wanted.
It's the strong laners, that very quick double lock-in of the Olaf and Viktor that we saw collapsing earlier, and being able to just burst down single target after single target here from Team Impulse. Each member of Impulse goes in one at a time there. It's very easy for CLG to focus their fire onto a single person and force them back out of the fight. There was very little return damage during that skirmish from any member of Team Impulse. They spent almost the entire time running away, and that's why they were able to, that's why CLG was able to come out with a victory in that skirmish, even though Xmithie was so far down.
Solid plays, and you know, the way CLG wants to win, get a good early game and have your dominant laners continue to dominate. So far that is happening. ZionSpartan has to feel good about this start of the game. Doublelift still just holding on to this matchup. Apollo really not getting much of a lead.
Xmithie gonna visit mid, but Gate gonna be able to speed boost himself out. He was trying to take advantage of that flashless mid lane Lulu, but does have her own utility built in. Able to get away from the Ekko. Still level 4 there for Xmithie though. He's still behind, even after that kill. Rush has already hit level 6 and ready to roll with the Evelyn ultimate.
Yeah, we have to remember that was a team fight where the solo laners were level 6 and the jungler was level 3. So
he is flash.
Definitive that Xmithie was behind. Rush has been spending most of his time farming in a somewhat risky fashion, but even with that first blood, because of the gold discrepancy between the junglers, which is now approaching 700, it goes to show you how much time Xmithie has spent just walking around versus the efficiency of Rush's jungle path.
Yeah, it was just good path there from Rush compared to Xmithie, because Xmithie actually didn't get off too many ganks during that time either. So all around, just a better management of time.
He's trying to set up top lane now. Sweeper comes through, so he was spotted by a ward. He just cleared that now. And now Gate coming in to play defense, but he'll get pinched off.
Yep.
Xmithie runs out.
And it's funny, actually. There comes the teleport. 4 members.
Shen does not have ulti just yet. Here's the dive into the back line. Apollo gets stunned up under the turret. The Braum passes there, and another kill now for ZionSpartan. Now what else can they chase? Somehow, Aphromoo lives with the chasing back down onto Xmithie. He does not have an ultimate, so he will go down. That's 1 kill picked up. Pobelter joins the fight, finds some damage on a Rush. A double kill for Gate. Now Pobelter forced to flash away with exhaust on him. A big knockup from Adrian. The fight continues, and Doublelift goes down. Rush kiting away from ZionSpartan, survives the encounter. 4 big kills for Impulse.
Exactly the type of fight the Team Impulse wanted, and even though the initial timing of the dive was good by CLG because the Shen ultimate was not up, by the time the fight stretched and CLG had committed themselves into a turret dive, it allowed Team Impulse to collapse back to them. The biggest thing about that is the fact that Gate did make it to this fight. He had been slow on rotations in past games.
Yeah, it was huge because even though CLG were able to clear out that ward, it tipped off Impulse. They all collapsed here. Adrian, Aphromoo actually able to just jump out there. I thought he got headbutted out.
Yeah, smart turret tanking right there, and Pobelter thought he had the flank, but honestly, never underestimate the power of Impact Shen coming in at the end of that fight. The rest of CLG then also overcommits when they should have been in retreat mode. They could have split this fight 2 for 1, but because Doublelift actually expended his flash to try and get a kill, which he had no business getting, with all the shields that Gate could throw out, it ends up costing CLG even more.
Yeah, and even though the goal was fairly close, almost even there before that fight, the experience advantage on Impulse side definitely coming to front there.
It's interesting as well with the fact that you've got basically 3 supports in this team. Shields are really, really strong when no one has any damage yet, and you just saw how hard it was for Impulse to lose another member. So well fought by them. The lanes get swapped around 11.5 into this one, and now Rush joining his dual lane on the bottom side. Spotted by a ward, this gank won't mean much. Yeah, how afraid does Rush have to be? Yeah, very. Oh, this is risky.
He already used W. It's dangerous to go back in without the slow cleanse there. But with Apollo and Adrian, he's able to take down the pink ward. The great nemesis of Evelyn. And there goes another one.
Yeah, from a team comp perspective, you could say that Team Impulse is a little bit low on damage, but one benefit they have is CLG doesn't have anyone on their team that can shield or heal very well, so that damage will stick whenever Team Impulse gets through it. And also, with the way that Rush has gotten to Runeglaive so quickly, he is going to be one of the primary threats on this team. They're going to continue the aggression, teleporting in.
He's already threatening Xmithie, and wow, double knocks him into his teammate. Down he goes. Xmithie already gone. Right now, Adrian tanking the turret with the Alistar ulti on. No chance to go down. Another 2 for 0. Impulse getting so many good fights.
Yeah, their team comp's coming out of control a little bit right now. This is the mid-game power spike that they wanted.
Also, when people look at team comps and sort of judge the damage output, it's based upon expected builds that are, you know, the norm for the champions, whereas Rush has been building his Evelyn almost full DPS in some games, and he's looking like he's going to build more AP after the Runeglaive as well, instead of going straight into tank after that. So definitely their mid-game damage will be there, because especially Lulu doesn't fall off in the mid-game either, so still maxing out her Glitter Lance, and plenty there for Impulse to take after the turret. Going to knock down the Dragon as well. That one tower dive up top just swung so much momentum over to Impulse side with those 4 kills after the tower dive.
Yeah, and this is going to be a very difficult game for CLG to come back from. We talked at the start of the game about how during the regular season, CLG was the best team across almost all aspects. Highest first blood percentage, first dragon percentage, and first tower percentage. But this game, they lost the first tower and the first dragon, and also face a big gold deficit at 10 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of their early game advantages in the regular season were taken from lane swap scenarios, where they were able to get Zion ahead before he even had to go into a 1 versus 1 scenario. But with the match this time around from Impulse, not able to get that early game advantage. And the thing is, for Impulse, is they have more global tools here than CLG. With the Shen, they can obviously go with the split pushing, and the rest of the squad can keep Apollo safe while they wait for the Shen split push pressure to get to work. Looks like ZionSpartan completing his flat cleaver, though. Will provide some extra threat. Here comes the siege of mid lane.
And that provides a little bit of time, but this turret's
they
going
have
down.
to respect this Team Impulse turret diving, and Alistar can always ult. Why has he waited so long? He didn't want to have to burn that, but he did.
That was really good, chunking out Adrian and burning his ultimate right there for CLG. They were able to buy time for Pobelter to get back to mid lane. Pobelter is the wave clear for the team, so him being in base is why Impulse were able to get so much damage down on that turret. Here comes the flank from Rush, though.
Getting jumped up, but Afra's going to almost get one shot. Someone heal comes in, plus the shield. Shelty will come in just in time, and we've got Impact here picking up 1. He's going to get Pobelter. That's 2 kills so far. 2 for 1, but now comes the Olaf. He wants in, but turns back too soon. Just going to take too much damage from Apollo. Has to run away, and it's yet another team fight won by Impulse.
Incredibly bold play by Rush right there. It does cost him his life, but at the end of the day, CLG wasn't as grouped up, and Aphromoo got caught a little bit out of position, nearly able to rescue that one, but it's still going to cost him.
Yep, Xmithie and Zion can try and wave clear with Qs, but again, Pobelter being down means they won't be able to defend the turret, and Impulse claim another one.
All right, right, getting far, far ahead. We keep track of the junglers, at least I will. 1,500 gold lead for the jungler here. Rush incredibly far ahead. He's not even far from getting his Rylays, which makes it even more ridiculous trying to get away from him.
Yeah, and one somewhat tragic thing is the fact that Xmithie is still waiting on his jungle upgrade. But to track this one once again, Rush saw the flank. CLG collapsed on him very well and bursted pretty much all their damage to break through the shielding. The fact is, though, Impact still made it into the fight. Because of the flank position, Pobelter was exposed, and then when Zion comes in, he's not synced with the rest of the damage, so it allows all focus to go down on him. And we're already 50 minutes in, he couldn't even go down and zero out Apollo.
Yeah, it's once again, Impulse just a few seconds quicker on the collapse there. Zion not there at the very beginning of the fight. They're missing the front line here for CLG, the threat that's supposed to make Impulse move backwards instead of trying to dive the back line here. And Impulse able to expand on their early game lead. Yeah. Take down the second of the outer turrets. One more to go for them.
Definitely feels like a very crisp game by Impulse. The fact that everyone just seems to be there on time, whether it's a Shen ulti or just the team collapsing, or the fact that everyone's just always nearby to Adrian. Yeah. Impulse have so many people in every single fight, and someone's always contributing. I'm
really liking the Lulu pick for Gate from Team Impulse this time around, because not only does it give him the built-in speed boost to be able to join the fights quicker and try and keep up with the rest of the team on all the action that breaks out, but also being able to choose who to give your defenses to. Early game, it's going to be Rush, who likes to build a lot of damage on the Evelyn, and then late game, they'll just shift over their priority to Apollo and protect the Kog'Maw. So they do have insurances for basically the entirety.
Yeah, I really like this. The team doesn't need any more than 3 major threats, and heck, even 2 is maybe okay here. Support mid seems to be just fine right here. Pobelter's still trying to be lane dominant, but will not find any harass just yet. And as Dragon number 2 spawns in a minute and a half, Impulse are exactly 3,000 gold up. And that edge might be too much for CLG to fight for it, but it's enough for Xmithie to take down the Scuttler. Now that will despawn before Dragon comes back up, but they're still trying to make moves. Bottom lane outer is going to be going down, and so Doublelift, highest minion kills in the game, and knocks some turrets out. Back getting stunned.
Good stun.
And there's the chase and in taunts away, but then a second stun lands thanks to the Braum passive, taking a whole bunch of damage. They're focusing him down, and it's gonna be enough damage. Doublelift gets the kill. CLG finally answer back.
Impact was just tremendously overconfident right there, thinking that he was an unkillable wall right there, but he really had no backup, which allowed CLG to push heavily. The other thing that prepped that play is long ago, CLG got deep wards within the jungle, so they knew no help was coming for Impact, allowing them to go so aggressive, and that was honestly Team Impulse not having pressure anywhere else, and a nice rotation by CLG.
Really solid by these guys, 45 seconds on Dragon, but Impulse push him away.
Yeah, not only the wards, but they also attack the Shen rather than someone else trying to go for the pick, so that there will be no global to come in. And good interruption right there. Zion going to work on top lane, though.
This is really critical because Team Impulse has the Shen ult up right now. They may continue to chase for this fight, knowing that they want to force Zion's teleport down as well. They realize there's no real escape.
He's a bit low, will not land the stun himself, but Viktor will, so.
Great zone control there from Pobelter, able to dissuade Impulse from diving any deeper. Impact was itching to come back in.
It's still going to buy him Dragon, though, I think. Even though ZionSpartan's going to recall and try to have items in time for the next fight, with so many forced to go back and heal, I don't think CLG can arrive in time to stop the objective being taken.
Not even close. Basically, CLG got trapped in between 2 choices right there. They wanted to get as much damage as possible down onto the tier 2 turret, but then that also didn't allow them to recall in time for any type of Dragon fight. They know that they are the disadvantaged team in this matchup, and honestly, the second Dragon is not the important one. CLG will try and trade objectives until they can go for the next.
Yeah, they have to be very careful at this stage in the game because they want to be able to pick someone off from Team Impulse before Impulse are able to group up and make use of the synergy of shielding their carry champions, but they always have to worry about the Stand United coming in. Here comes an outer turret kill, though, able to get some extra global gold back for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we're back to a 600 gold game. Counterlogic Gaming just made up 2.4 thousand in the last 2 minutes here. Really, honestly, pretty solid by them picking up a kill and 2 turrets to get this one closer. And as Jatt mentioned a second ago, Dragon 2 really not that important as far as team fight power goes. I do also want to mention, it's so hard to kill turrets against Braum Viktor. It's practically impossible, and you have to actually out-rotate them typically, it feels like, to knock those things down. The shield comes up, you can't do damage to it. Viktor wave clears in about a second flat. And from games I've seen with those champions, quite hard to siege against them.
And something that hasn't been a strength of CLG during the regular season has been their ability to come back in games. It seems like it was either snowball or bust. And in this particular game, they fell behind fairly substantially. It was about a 2,000 or 3,000 gold lead by Team Impulse. But since then, because CLG has drafted such a good wave clear composition, it does seem like they're playing smarter after the poor early game choices that they made. Pobelter staying more safe, getting the kills down. They've actually been able to get significant deep warding into the jungle of Team Impulse, which is really hard to do when you're against a Shen team that is ahead of you. But because they've been able to do that, they're doing a better job of actually tracking where Rush goes, and it's the reason they've been able to get these turrets and keep the gold lead close, as well as farm relatively safely.
That means we're in a close one. So when the next fight happens...
Defensive rotation up to the top lane here for CLG. They should be able to head it off. Adrian is ready to go for turret dive though. Alistar does have flash and ulti available.
Potential 3v3 as both junglers are around.
ZionSpartan's about to get to that turret down bottom too. CLG trying to buy him some time.
Comes two, but they look for Pobelter. Big burst comes in. Gate's gonna get a lot of ulti. He's trying to keep himself alive, running away from Pobelter. But the focus turns on a rush. He goes down. A big knockout comes through. Pobelter is low, but not taking enough damage. Someone he'll helps keep him alive. And now it's actually ZionSpartan pulling even more aggro. Does go down to a Glitter Lance, but still more kills coming through for Counter Logic Gaming. And the chase continues with a stun on an impact. Explosive charge goes off, and that's a 3-for-1 for CLG.
Whoa.
And not even done yet. Can they get more? The Q lands onto Adrian. They're going to get the stun with one more hit. They get him. They get a fourth kill. CLG back in the lead.
That's going to be Baron as well. They're all going back over towards the... Well, never mind. Rush is back up. Maybe it's a bit dangerous.
That fight stretched so long that it would be really risky because the respawns are already coming in for Team Impulse. Overall, though, that fight just started so well, and it was on Pobelter making an aggressive flank play right there in spite of being against Shen and Evelyn. Because he dumped so much damage, he forced the Shen ultimate onto a non-rush target and really started off the fight.
And look at this, he flashes the Shen taunt as soon as impact comes in too. So he draws so much attention down here, and CLG collapsed with the extra DPS uptime right there. Impact with no taunt. On Shen, after you miss taunt, your team fight is horrendous. And he just walks around trying to auto-attack people. Even though Zion went down there, he was able to put enough threat onto Apollo to draw back both of the frontline members and allow the rest of CLG to take down the remaining Impulse members. That right there really from Aphromoo, able to land the Q for the slow, netting them another kill here, was huge.
Yeah, and beautiful skill shots by Aphromoo down the stretch right there. Nice comeback thus far by CLG. This would be such a monumental moment if they can actually come back and beat Team Impulse here, since their last 6 playoff games have been defeats. To come back in Game 1 against such a formidable opponent in Team Impulse could do wonders for the momentum and mindset.
Yeah, I mean, people always talk about CLG choking later in the game, but that was a clutch play right there from Pobelter to basically negate impact in that entire team fight.
You know, the guys who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting are honestly Doublelift and Xmithie, both of whom kills resistance, 7 out of the team's 8 kills. Doublelift knocking a lot of turrets down. Xmithie, for as much flak as he's getting, having a great game so far.
Yeah, they were able to get that very quick collapse. Again, that was 4 members of CLG with about a second of DPS time on only 2 members of Impulse to get a huge health advantage just as the fight starts.
Rush actually had to burn his flash because he got spotted out by Viktor and Olaf down in the river while CLG was prepping Baron. So it is on Team Impulse to try and make a bit of a recovery here. It is interesting to bring up Xmithie in this context because his teamfight participation has been very high, even though he has been falling heavily behind in gold and in levels. But honestly, a lot of people do pick the jungle Ekko for the team fight prowess in the late game and the ability to chain CC for the high damage dealers on CLG. So as long as he can do that and Pobelter and Doublelift are positioning properly, it can still work for CLG.
Yeah, definite improvements for Xmithie. During the regular season, he had the second lowest kill participation for junglers. But stepping it up pretty big this game on the Ekko. Even with tank Ekko slight nerfs.
Well, Adrian, the only guy at 100% in this game. Aphromoo also at 7 of 8, by the way. So both supports very solid. ZionSpartan on the side. They look for the stun. Won't quite find it from Ekko. Adrian just outside the ring.
This dragon is quite huge. CLG actually has very good ward coverage throughout this map. You can see Team Impulse trying to catch up with it with 3 upgraded yellow trinkets, but that also means Team Impulse doesn't have any sweeping capability, so it makes their flanks much more difficult since CLG is just covering them with wards, and every time Team Impulse is coming through the jungle, they are walking through full vision, so the sneak attack is really hard to pull off.
Yeah, the vision being acquired early here by CLG is very big for them. The reason they came back in this game and the reason they won back-to-back team fights was because they had the better positioning at the beginning of the fight. Impulse have not been able to get the initiation they want, and allowing the Kog'Maw Apollo to be able to free fire for the duration of the fight. It's always CLG jumping on Impulse.
Yeah,
and forcing the issue here.
There's actually a big problem for Impulse, though, with this Evelyn now becoming a bit squishy because she went for the Rileys, went for a bit of a greedier build. She's not a huge threat.
Almost no resistances. That's why Pobelter was able to chunk him out so easily.
Right, and Gate, of course, not a big damage threat. The big problem is that Apollo's behind. He is 1-1-4. He is he's like 2.4 thousand gold behind Doublelift. It's 3-item Tristana to not even 2, or just now 2 items on this Kog'Maw. When W is down, he is not a threat here. And there's no Zeke's, no Ardent Sensor making him more powerful. It's a long road ahead for Apollo here.
Yeah, interesting item choices because as far as Team Impulse is concerned, the whole Evelyn Shen being able to force early fights and dive, which is kind of the niche of this team comp to work very well. They executed that a little bit early, but then because of the tremendously uncleared ward coverage by CLG, they were honestly able to spot out Rush whenever he was farming his jungle and couldn't really get snuck attacked by the submarine Evelyn Shen.
Yep.
And it's a continuation of the vision control game, on top of now Team Impulse having some issues trying to itemize optimal.
Yeah, you touch on this vision game. Look at this. There's 3 upgraded yellow trinkets and still a yellow trinket on Apollo on the AD carry here. Hasn't swapped it out. They don't even have the scrying orb when they get into this scenario where CLG have vision control around Baron. Some exchanges here. Adrian already pretty low.
Bit of damage CC waste on Aphromoo. Adrian pulls in the Doublelift ulti, and you see the battle between Impact and ZionSpartan. Seems to be ZionSpartan favored right now. 500 gold lead for him in the matchup, and that might mean a little bit. But that bot lane is pushed up. Aphromoo again taking some poke, but honestly Apollo is not a big threat to this Braum. Aphro does not have to care. You talked about the damage sticking earlier, Jatt. There's no heals, but it just does not seem to matter. There's no damage to be dealt. Mid lane pushed in first by Impulse.
Yeah, that's
CLG keep threatening Baron.
That's the other thing about putting so much of your team into that range DPS from Kog'Maw. Braum can block a huge amount of it by enough time for the burst damage on CLG to take someone down. Here we go. There's the only sweeper on the team.
Impulse finally got a ward back onto Baron. They'd actually had no vision during that prior dance around the mid lane, and Impulse were correctly slow. Now let's look again, a ward there. ZionSpartan was able to steal away the blue buff here. Impulse could not spare the time to get that for themselves. Zion really creating a lot of advantages for himself as bot lane is slow burning a lead for CLG.
I really don't see why Apollo hasn't picked up a scrying orb. They're going to need it because they're so far behind.
He thinks he doesn't need it.
Kog'Maw can sometimes scout with his ultimate, but the level 1 warding trinket doesn't exactly do much.
The submarine reaches! Pobelter takes a dive in the mid lane, and now Impulse maybe have some room to work with. 2,000 gold down still, but control over Baron.
Yeah, I was going to say CLG had to play very carefully because they're doing a 1-3-1 split push, and all Team Impulse wanted to do was submarine in on them to get the initiation. Pobelter is up way above the rest of his team, and that is the pick that maybe Team Impulse needs. They can just go for Baron, and unless CLG is willing to go into a 4v5 without their main damage dealer, it would be Impulse's Baron. Xmithie, though, prompting.
Only Adrian's done. Xmithie, though, going to ult right back out. Adrian pops ulti himself to stay alive a bit longer, but that means the jungler will die off. That's 2 kills picked up in a row. Still 10 seconds of Pobelter.
Rush goes low.
Low on health. He's got to be real careful here. The passive will tick off of him. But Apollo now, W on cooldown, can't do that much damage.
It's still a full team of Team Impulse. This is an incredibly risky fight. How many crits will he get?
He's really low. They get the Baron. He just stays alive. But how quickly can they run? Doublelift going to do so much damage. ZionSpartan wants in. Oh, the slows don't quite land. The disengage by Kog'Maw. Just barely enough. And by the skin of their teeth, Impulse pull ahead.
That was an incredibly tense moment for Team Impulse, but it's what they needed to regain some control in this game. What was really interesting is that was pretty much preempted by CLG trying to do the 1-3-1 split push and extend their farm advantages, since really Team Impulse doesn't have good people to deal with the split push. And the way you break that is you force a fight as your squad of 5 and then go take an objective. CLG left open the opportunity to do that because Pobelter was out in front of the rest of his team without peel, and eventually Team Impulse converts it for that Baron evening goal.
Yeah, this is actually pretty bad for CLG. You talk about the balance point for Olaf because he obviously does not build many resistances, and he relies on the threat of him killing the AD carry sort of as his defense and forcing the AD carry to kite backwards and spend more time walking rather than auto-attacking. Kog'Maw is very difficult to itemize against in the first place. Not having, you want magic resist as well as armor. He's got percentage health.
Every stack is punished in some way.
Exactly, for both damage types. So Zion right now, Zion's in a very tough situation where he wants to remain a damage threat, but also has to deal with the dual shredding of Kog'Maw, and is definitely losing a lot of the threat in the team fight now.
And of course, everyone not named Olaf could be peeled by some member of Impulse there. So yeah, there's a good wall in front, and I don't think Zion can strictly win the duel. So Dragon coming up in 10 seconds. CLG did earn the previous one off of their prior gold lead. But with Baron buff on, I think it's pretty unlikely you can test this. Yeah,
especially because if CLG loses a fight, they most likely lose the game with the strong Baron buff push down the lane by Team Impulse. They have to just kind of give this one away. Doublelift was hoping to get some damage done over the wall, but it's unlikely that happens.
Flash. He will not. Would have been risky. Actually, could have E-ulted. Like, that's not even that risky.
Yeah, well, also the big thing there is not only do Impulse get the Dragon, but they also have Baron buff, so the split push that they were doing while getting that objective also nets them a turret kill, and they're being able to close the loop here on CLG. All that vision that they were not able to clear out with. Uh-oh, here goes the dive.
They go right away for Aphromoo. Ulti pop to buy some time. Good damage from Doublelift as well. He's
Apollo's in a bad spot.
Oh, wow, overextension Apollo. Way too far forward, doing his Charlotte impression. Goes down to the bot tier 2 turret, and now it keeps on going. Already 2 kills picked up. Trades for Olaf. That's the third one. A double kill for Pobelter. Xmithie might try to find one more. Can he slow down Adrian? Not quite. Boots will be going to be enough, but CLG fires in.
Just a huge gap in the positioning of Team Impulse. They go for an immediate dive, but they had just separate goals right there. The team gets split. Apollo is completely isolated between CLG and a teleporting ZionSpartan, so he gets wrecked. And there goes the advantage that Chip got from Baron.
Yeah, you have Baron buff. You want to continue the split push. You want to Baron buff as many minions as possible.
Yeah.
You already have so much pressure, and they are the ones to force the issue here. Impulse getting a little bit too anxious there for the tower dive, and a big blunder. Let's CLG right back in. They get 2 turrets off the back of it as well.
Perfect capitalization here by CLG.
Get the turret!
Almost perfect.
All right, you know what? It's okay. It'll die soon.
Yeah, 12 health. 12 health on that turret.
Yeah,
but that turret never goes down this game, I'll be so sad.
So that's not even the big thing, though, right? You're on your back. You want to have that cash right now, because they're going back to purchase right now.
Yeah.
So being able to get the turret later doesn't do a whole lot for you. Yes, you'll have more gold in your inventory, but it's all about the items that they're able to buy for the next team fight. And that was actually a huge defense for Impulse. Look at this, though.
Yeah, honestly.
Apollo's even taking the turret as he walks in to try and...
Apollo, he was trying to catch up to the rest of the team because he thought that was a clean dive, but honestly, he needed to walk around the other side. There's just no excuse for that. To actually take the turret aggro before the dive.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple problems with that. The call to begin with, then the execution as well, so...
Yep. I mean, I agree. Yeah, big misstep by TIP gives away a lot.
Yeah, and even though Team Impulse did get the 3-0 in the quarterfinals, in every single one of those games, there was a decent-sized misstep by Team Impulse somewhere in the game. It happened every game, and the question we were asking in that series was, when was that going to come back to actually cost them a game? This was their misstep in this game. Obviously, you don't want to have those missteps, but it seems to be something that continues to plague Team Impulse, and now they have to make up for it.
Yeah, that's always, to me, like, what Impulse has been about, is he's like, 70% of the time, they're right calls, where it's like, they're going to be really aggressive, going to be very proactive, and it usually looks cool. Sometimes looks terrible. Apollo said part of their game plan was waiting for CLG's mistakes, but, you know, some of those on both sides, certainly.
Plus, as we get to the super late game, I always give the advantage to the team that has more threats. The optimal full item builds, I feel, always include some sort of DPS item. And Shen definitely going to fall off pretty hard for Impulse.
It's such a tough one here because on one side you have kind of a Juggermaw with an AP Lulu and a Kog'Maw that could theoretically rip through people, but then you consider the fact that you could have 3 people just bursting damage onto that main threat and take him out right away. Ultimately, the more threats might come out on top just because one misstep in positioning will be punished harder for Team Impulse than it will for CLG.
Yeah, plus, you know, late game Tristana does still bring the crit to the game here, whereas Kog'Maw doesn't have any in the build quite yet, unless he turns that into an Infinity Edge.
That's almost definitely the build. I would be really surprised to see Bloodthirster from the Kog'Maw here. I really hope it's not. I think it's they're very wrong out in the buy. So it's worth pointing out that Adrian actually on Alistar is actually both a good Zeke's Harbinger and a good Ardent Sensor user. I'm pretty sure the heal hits everyone, and Shen just doing bonus magic damage on hit, not exactly a bad thing. Lulu either, so.
Gonna take a while for him to build it up, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's not exactly rich. All right, top lane fight. Impact has a lot of passive magic damage burn, and ZionSpartan, not having a lot of lifesteal yet, actually will slowly lose to Impact in a straight duel.
315 AD, not even close to enough to break through a late game tank armor stacking Shen.
Even with Black Cleaver, yeah, it's just very hard to deal with Sunfire Thornmail. Ooh!
Oh.
Yeah, that is pre-Infinity Edge crit, by the way, 477 against a real champion. It gets worse from there. That was Triforce proc as part of it. There's the ulti in. The rush slows down too. Doublelift rocket jumps away. He's still got Buster Shot, does not use it yet.
Yeah, the question will be whether this positioning allows Team Impulse to get a turret or whether CLG can rotate in behind safely. This game is on such a hair trigger right now. Could really go either way.
Whoa, Xmithie went in the...
Oh, dear.
That's one mistake.
He thought he was a Sejuani ultimate. Just went right in there to the enemy team.
You're talking about, you know, positioning late game. These are where those mistakes will cost you something like an inhibitor. Those are very, very scary at this point. Him being on Ekko is going to allow him...
Yeah, he does get one do-over.
...to redo. But, yeah, gonna have to... It's a big cooldown. They do not want a team fight now. So, definitely dangerous for them. The other thing that is very big in the late game is sort of the game-changing ultimate from Alistar, where later into the game, everybody's getting all this penetration, and it is about punishing missteps, and you can burn people down very quickly. Alistar is one that still, to the late game, remains extremely difficult to work around.
Yeah.
Provides so much zone control coming from the support role, even more than a lot of the common tanks do, even at full tank build. So.
And he's getting more shields too, Locket plus face.
Alistar will be fairly big.
This is also a super important part of the game. Dragon 4 is going for tip, and CLG is trying to
Interesting trade here.
With the Viktor and the Trish, they can burst down this Baron so quickly. The question will be, do they finish or do they peel and fight? They're a little slow here, so Team Impulse could get a fight if they want it.
This could be a 4v5. Olaf could show up, so could Shen. Adrian buys some time, pops ultimate, takes so much damage he could die during the Alistar ulti. Gate also forced out by the Viktor. And this Baron now just starts regenerating back to half HP. Dragon did not even go down. Very good stop.
They need to let Apollo lifesteal off that, yep. Impact stops hitting it.
They want to keep going on this, but remember, there's not many critical ultimates outside of the Alistar one that was burned by Team Impulse, yet CLG did use the Viktor ult, so the team fight could still go in Tip's favor. Rush has flash to try and steal, or will there be a fight?
Aphro's at half, Gate's really low. Could they get enough there? Wild Growth is alive here in the back line. Blue team picks up Baron Nashor. No steal for Rush. He flashed and did not do anything. Double knocked him away. And there's the axe slowing down Gate, misses the glitter lance. Q lands from Aphro, gets away, a bit of burst, and they re-engage. Now Pobelter's low. Impact of the front line has to flash out, and they pick up Braum. They almost get Xmithie. It's so close, but he survives it. But it's now the chase coming in. The Kog'Maw wants it all. It's a trade of 1-for-1. Rush, he's got to be careful. There goes Doublelift. The shields come in. He goes down, but he gets hexed, and now Apollo's going to die for that one. A double kill, and the chase continues. Gate trying to run away, but CLG, they've won the fight.
Battle of the late game AD carries, and Doublelift comes out on top.
For all the times that Doublelift late in an important game has flashed or rocket jumped in the wrong direction or too far into the team and have it cost his team the game, the fact that he's still doing that, but this time is successful, is just remarkable. This time CLG take a little bit of control of the game. It's at least the inhibitor.
There you go, TSM, eat your heart out. AD carries you flash forward and make it work. Well played by Doublelift here.
Eventually it's going to work. That was,
of course.
That was such an important play for Doublelift to go super aggressive and get the extra attacks to pop off that explosive charge. What an intense fight.
Important crits as well. Crits at this stage of the game mean everything.
Knocks out Rush, who came in too early.
Yep, gets knocked
No
out.
chance
Gets
to
knocked
steal.
out though for Phreak.
Yeah, such a back and forth fight too, because this is the moment where ZionSpartan is going for the kills because he can ignore the glitter lance. But then when the Olaf ultimate runs out, it's time for the fight turn by Team Impulse.
Yeah, Impact able to get the taunt only on to Pobelter there, but he does split the team. As Impact draws all the attention over the wall and uses his flash to get out, it split the team long enough for Apollo to go onto the front lines. Here though, Doublelift seeing red, goes in for it.
Also flashed over the glitter lance, and then to get the auto attack immediately after Apollo, be able to rocket jump afterwards. It's a very clutch moment for a player that often gets shut down because of his poor performance in those clutch moments.
We said it was going to be an action-packed game, an action-packed series between CLG and Impulse, and they are delivering thus far. Big, baroned up triple wave here. 2 cannons to boot, and they will be able to get that turret pretty easily.
All right, Counter Logic Gaming. Jatt, you mentioned the missteps of Impulse. What would it cost in the game? That bot lane tower dive that gave away practically 2 turrets and a couple of kills. CLG have ballooned quite far off of that, actually getting
and as well they had the Baron too. There's the damage of the late game Viktor as well. Apollo now has to back out of the fight. It's going to be the second inhibitor easily.
5-item Tristana. She's got everything she wants. Doublelift 7-1 and 7. He missed out on a single kill from his team, crushing it now. Knocking down the top Nexus turret. It's going to go down pretty soon. Apollo on 3 items, actually 4, is a threat here. They have to respect his damage output.
Yeah.
Next turret survives for now. Rush spotted on the side.
So you just need to keep up the pressure. They have 2 inhibitors down.
And I think the big thing for CLG is to disengage Rush when he gets into the flank ultimate and then kind of play the long fight. They know they have a big advantage here.
Yeah.
And they're hoping for an overchase by Team Impulse. It's ridiculous how powerfully CLG is moving into the base here. Really just wanted to get down those Nexus turrets even though no one is dead on Team Impulse.
Yeah, they just have to watch out for someone getting a little bit too close to Apollo. Apollo only needs a few auto attacks to take a single member down.
Pulverized Pobelter. Oh, they burst off the support and Rush goes down too. No one's dead from CLG. Impact has to dash away from the team. He taunts the air. Yeah. Explosive charge does some damage. CLG in the lead.
That was one big example of Team Impulse having not quite enough damage right there. Rush also had to build a little bit tanky. They lose that fight and most likely the game.
Impact's gonna pretty low as well. There's the last turret. On to the Nexus they go. 43 minutes. Counter Logic Gaming in the semifinals take game 1.
First playoff victory for CLG in a while, and they still have 2 more victories before they can move on to the finals that they would need to have. So really, I mean, that was the action pack first game we were hoping.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Made possible by a lot of questionable decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
From both teams there.
There were questionable decisions on both sides in this one. The whole reason that CLG was able to come back in the first place, the really poor farming that Xmithie had in the early game, then poor rotations by Team Impulse, but ultimately it's who can capitalize on those things the best is who's going to make it into the finals.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, really solid. CLG capitalized definitely quite well. I do have to commend Impulse's early to mid-game, though. They went for so many dives, and so many of them were very, very solid. There was the mid-game submarine on the Viktor in the mid lane that got them the Baron in the first place, and that super tense Baron call itself, really awesome as well. Like, there's obviously a lot of bright spots for Impulse, but sometimes they burned a little bit too bright, and it you know, blew up in their faces.
Yeah, I wonder.
I was trying to make the metaphor work. I think it got there.
I could see the cogs spinning.
Happened. Yeah, the game happened. It was fun.
Yeah, it was super fun.
It's interesting here. So we're going to swap sides for the next game, right?
Yep.
The Shen was effective for Team Impulse, but not ultimately victorious. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a long series. The closeness of that game makes it unlikely of a 3-0.
Yeah, that's true. And we'll see if the Olaf gets contested as well. ZionSpartan definitely good on the split pushing.
Yeah.
Doing well for himself. We have more to talk about in the future games, but for now we have the analysts to talk about that one as CLG